Hey everyone, this is Home Game. I just got my Cairn 2 second edition early backer PDFs, and I'd like to talk about the player's guide. So I pulled up the player's guide and the character sheet for us to glance over. For those of you who haven't heard of Cairn, Cairn first edition is a free, really lightweight TTRPG that that uses some interesting mechanics to keep it real lightweight and story focused. Um, I say it's free because you can get the PDF and print it out yourself, and there's actually some really good online tools for like a bestiary and stuff like that. I bought the book just to show my support, and because it's really inexpensive. Like the Cairn first edition book, it's about 20 pages. And I got it for $4 on Amazon, I think. So it's super cheap. And this is everything from Cairn First Edition. It's as minimal as you get, I think, with an RPG. And I bought the bestiary that they had up to. This is twice as thick as the rule book. It's 40 pages. There's the cover art is pretty much the only art. In the side, I don't think there's any artwork whatsoever. It's just monster text. But I mean, we all have the internet, so you can generate your own monster image or just peruse the internet for a monster image. Um, I mean, I'm not making money off other people's art. I'm just having a game at my house, you know. But when I saw the second edition on Kickstarter, I think it's Kickstarter, and then they're going through backer kit too. But I got pretty excited and went ahead and backed it. I don't back many Kickstarters, but when I saw this, I was like, let's see what they're developing this into. The artwork on the cover is amazing. I really like that style. It's a fairly simplistic style, but they're getting a lot of detail in there. The color scheme's great. They're not, it's muted colors, and they're sticking to two colors with just shades and tints added, and it looks a really good effect. Now, I haven't really gone through this book. I've glanced through it. I just got it like last night or this morning, something like that. Start with the table of contents. So now this is substantially larger than first edition. You can see that it's 86 pages, and this is just the book for the players. There's also a warden's book, a GM's book, that I believe is bigger than this. So they've added a decent amount of content to it. So you have 10 pages of character creation, but a lot of this I think is going to be like random charts and stuff like that. It's not even, it's none of this is complicated stuff. Like there's not even a ton of math you have to do. 20 backgrounds. I don't even think did they even touch on backgrounds in first edition. Some of this is going to be, no, they just talk about character traits you could develop. They didn't even give you templates for backgrounds. So the 12 backgrounds are completely new. Oh, hold on. Name and background. So the background section of first edition is literally just this little blurb right here. Just this, these like 4 columns or 4 rows. And it just says alchemist, cleric, gambler, mercenary, and I think they lead you to build that out on your own. So that's different. The core rules. I imagine that's going to be what your players are going to reference often. Those 7 pages, which I believe in the original was just like a couple of pages in the front. I might be thinking of something else. It might be a couple pages in the back. Yeah. So first edition, this page was a rule summary. These are all the rules that they thought you would have to reference a lot. But here it looks like they have 7 pages. Now, I don't know how much, because this little booklet for first edition doesn't have a ton of artwork. It has some good artwork splattered throughout it, but this might have a lot more artwork in it too, which kind of bulks up the page count a bit. Overview, Cairn was written with the following design philosophies in mind. That's good. They tell you why the rules are the way they are, essentially. Like, what were they thinking about when they wrote the rules? That's good to know. Helps you build on their concept if you want to. Principles for players, tells players what to concentrate on. That's good. I assume the Warden's book would have principles for Wardens in it. We'll look at the Warden's book some other time. Character creation. Now this is, like I said, this is the like early backer release. I hope that when they release it, when they put out the final release, they have like a tablet form so these images aren't split like this. I'm sure they will. I mean, it's a no-brainer. Other books are doing it to where you have 2 pages in front of you instead of just a 1. Creating characters. These background names are such unique background names. And of course they give you the option to roll on a d20 table to just get a random background. Tells you there's 3 attributes. The attributes are strength, dexterity, and will. I mean, this is the character sheet right here. You have your inventory slots. You have your 3 attributes. You have your hit protection here, which is like hit points. Got a spot for notes, your bonds, omens, traits, armor. Whether or not you're deprived, which is just a status effect that can come up that will limit your ability to do things. It obviously comes up enough that they thought it was important to put on the character sheet. So it explains hit protection. It explains the 3 attributes. Like I said, they boil it down pretty good in Cairn. How inventory works. Inventory works off inventory slots. So you don't have to add up a bunch of weight and stuff like that. How big they. Only thing you got to know is, does it take up 0 inventory slots, 1 or 2, and you can get like a cart that has inventory slots, that kind of thing. One interesting thing is like some status effects affect your inventory. So if you're fatigued or something like that, I don't quote me on the the wording. It might be called something else. That would take up an inventory slot. So if you're like really exhausted, then it would start taking up more inventory slots. So you would have to start dropping things if you have too many status effects on you that impact your inventory, which is an interesting way to do that. It's really simplifies it down to it impacts your character right away, and you don't have to put a ton of brain power into it. You can just keep playing. Here's a random list of character traits. That's good. Good starting points. Clothing, you got virtues, vices, bonds, omens. Some, like you'll see later, I think some character. This is a classless system, but you pick backgrounds, and some backgrounds may make you take like an omen. And omens. Just pick a short one and read it off. A thick, unnatural fog has begun encroaching upon an ancient and holy grove. It is said to be the work of a great forest spirit angered by nearby deforestation. So it's it's like a good story point that you can build off of, and something that the character's worried about, essentially. You got your marketplace, all the stuff that you could buy. Here's backgrounds. um, these names are so good, like Orifex. Like they're names that I've never heard in any other kind of TTRPG that I've cruised through. It says, you are an artisan of the arcane, a smith of subtle forces. In the crucible of your workshop, the laws that govern this world are warped to suit your needs. The flavor text is just so good. So this gives you, the background just gives you starting gear, and it gives you name suggestions. Uh, this one says, what experiment went horribly wrong? It's all like, and some of these affect things that you can do. Some of them give you more items, stuff like that. Like this one says, ridiculed for discovering how to turn gold into lead. You were a laughing stock. Take a bottle of universal solvent, 2 uses, that dissolves anything it touches into its constituent parts. So this gives you a universal solvent, and it gives you a little bit of background about your character. That says something that you may have developed on your own. Barber surgeon is another background. You walk the line between healer and harrower, knowing the frailty of the flesh, but also the secrets that lie within. With the right tools, life and death are merely words. Now, the flavor text for the background kind of leads you into their mindset. It doesn't necessarily mean that this guy can like raise dead, because this is a fairly low magic setting, where a game like D&D 5th edition, magic permeates every aspect of that thing. If you wanted to run a low magic 5th edition game, I don't think you could. I've thought about it a bit. I don't think you could. I think that if you wanted to run a low magic TTRPG, you should just pick something other than 5th edition, because magic permeates every aspect of 5th edition. But this is, if you noticed in the index, there's not even a section for spells, because you don't pick a character that can then read off of a spell list and do stuff. Spells are in the Warden's book, where he can create items or books or scrolls that have spells on them. And anybody can read off of these things. If you can read, then you can read the spell and you can activate the spell. But it's not like one wizard walks around with a tome this big and he studies it every morning, or she studies it every morning, and they set their 19 spells for the day aside. That's not how this works. It's like you can have a scroll, and a scroll is one use. You can have a book, and inside the book, if you find it, it's like a relic that you found somewhere, and it has one spell in it that you can cast from the book daily or whatever it is. And that is all that's in that spell book. And it takes up an inventory slot. And if you use it, then you also have like a fatigue in your inventory. So you could probably keep using it, but it does keep causing fatigue and keeps causing a status effect on you. It takes a lot out of you to cast spells. So these backgrounds, back to the backgrounds. This one is Beast Handler, Bone Keeper. You're a shepherd of the departed. You listen to the final whispers of the dead, and they descend into the cold, unyielding earth. You know that to fully celebrate the gift of life, we must honor its finale as well. And the artwork is all awesome too. I mean, it's like some classic It looks like it has a classic feel to it. It looks more modern art, but it looks like it has like a classic RPG feel to it. A cut purse, a field warden, Fletchwind. You strike from afar, but that does not make you a coward. You are a musician. You are a musician. The song of your bowstring, not but a warning, singing the silent promise of a quick death. All the flavor text for these guys is just awesome. Foundling, Bugle Forager, Green Wise. There's also not races in this book. Looks like it's pretty human. It looks like everything's pretty much just human. It's like it's a lower fantasy setting than you would find in many other TTRPGs. Outrider, Prowler, Rill Runner. What's a Rill Runner? You sing the stories of rivers and lakes, your talents soothing friends and the elements alike. You've seen more than most, but somehow it never seems to be enough. Also, like there's a list of songs here. And one of them is Harper's Devotion, a sad short tale about a musician who falls in love with a star. Start with a celestial lute, revealing the constellations above, no matter the weather. Well, that's awesome. So he knows this song, and he gets a lute that will show him the constellations, no matter the weather. So that's an awesome little thing. We're through backgrounds, looking at rules. Like I said, the rules were what, about 10 pages. So it explains to you saves, healing and recovery, deprivation and fatigue. Another thing that this system does is there's no attack rolls. Things just hit. Now you can wear armor to prevent hits. If multiple people are attacking, or if you made 2 attacks, it actually says if multiple people are attacking that everybody would roll, and you would just pick the lowest attack to affect the monster. And I think that might be a misprint, because if one person is attacking twice, they roll 2 damage die and pick the higher number. That's what attacking twice gets you. So it doesn't get you 2 attacks. It just gets you a chance to roll a higher damage roll. So I think if you have like 3 people attacking one monster, all 3 would roll, and you would just pick the higher damage roll. But the book says you pick the lowest one. I would have to think that that's a misprint. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, and it doesn't jive with making 2 attack rolls. Another thing about the rules for this game is all attacks happen simultaneously. So for the most part, the players go first. In the first round, you would roll like a save. If you fail to save, you don't go during the first round. So if you have 6 people playing and 3 of them fail their save, 3 people get to go that didn't fail their save, and then the monsters go, and then you would start the order over again, and the players would all be playing. Everybody declares what they want to do, and then it all just happens at once. So all the players would say what they want to do, and it would all just happen. Well, all the players would say what they want to do. The monsters would say what they want to do, I believe. And then it just all just happens. So if 3 people say they're attacking one guy, all those attacks happen at once. You don't say, what are you doing? Okay, it hits. This is what happens. Next person. You take in all the information. All the information happens at once. And then you start back over with the players. So yeah, it would have to be the players. All the actions for the players happen, then all the answers for the monsters, then all the actions for the monsters happen. The saves are like to avoid negative outcomes. If someone says, "Give me a strength save," you roll a d20 and you have to get under your strength score. So there's no variable saves or anything. It's just under what's on your character sheet. I haven't gotten to the part where they explain how your character's attributes might improve. They might not. I don't know. There may not be any kind of leveling in here, but I haven't gotten to that part yet. So maybe we find it together in here. Maybe it's in the Warden's Guide. I don't know. There's a thing where you can attack from a position of weakness or a position of strength. And when you attack from a position of weakness, you roll smaller damage die. So if your normal damage roll is a d8, if you're attacking from a position of weakness, like you're laying on the ground and swinging wildly at something, like you're laying prone, then you would roll a d4 for your damage die instead of a d8. Now, if you have a monster laying prone in front of you, you would be attacking from a position of strength, so you would roll a d12 instead of a d8. So instead of advantage disadvantage like are in other similar fantasy games, it would be you just roll a bigger or a smaller damage die. They do have attacks. They do have some blast effects in this game. So instead of hitting one target, you would hit a few targets. It's up to, I think it's up to the Warden's discretion, kind of. It also says that you can roll a die to determine how many people are affected by the damage. One thing that this game does, and I'm not going to go through every rule in the book. One thing this game that also does, which I like, is there's a mechanic for scars. So if at any point your character goes down to exactly 0 hit points, they can develop a scar. And scars aren't necessarily bad. In fact, the ones that I skimmed through weren't bad. Scars, it says, if damage to a PC would result in their hit points to exactly 0, look up the result on the table below based on the amount of hit points lost in the attack. If a PC went from 3 hit points to 0 hit points, they would look at the entry for 3, walloped. So if you have 9 hit points and you take 9 damage, you would look at the 9 hit point section on the scars table. Their example is 3. 3 is walloped. You are sent flying and land flat on your face, winded. You are deprived until you rest for a few hours. Then roll 1d6 and add that amount to your HP. So it's good and bad. Some of these, from what I saw, actually can change your maximum HP. Because at the beginning, you would just roll, I think you just roll a d6, and that's your hit protection, which has a potential to be pretty low. Some of these, if you go down to 0 hit points exactly, you have the potential to come back a stronger character, which I thought was a fantastic mechanic to add, just to say, because if you're playing and you go down to 0 hit points and you're like, oh man, and then you get a little disheartened, but you have the potential to come back and be even stronger. You also have the potential to just suffer a mortal wound, and that could not be so good. So if you have 11 hit points, you go down to 0, it says mortal wound. You are deprived and out of action. You die in 1 hour unless healed. Upon recovery, roll 2d6. Take the new result as your max hit points. So if someone doesn't get to you within the hour, then you would die. But if they do, then your max hit point could potentially go up. In fact, there's a good chance it'll go up because, like I said, I think you just roll 1d6 at the beginning for your max hit points, and this would say roll 2d6, and that's your new max hit points. So you almost die, but you learn your lesson. You come back more like bigger and stronger than you ever were, you know. Oh, there is a magic section here. I lied to you. It explains spell books, casting spells, how it adds fatigue to your inventory. Tells you the difference between spell books and scrolls. Gives you relics. Relics are items imbued with magical spell or power. They do not cause fatigue. Relics usually have limited uses as well as recharge condition. So a relic would be like some ancient magical artifact or something like that. Procedures. This just says, hey, if you're exploring a dungeon, this is how you should do it. The dungeon exploration cycle, see below, is divided into a series of turns, actions, consequences. Okay, so this explains if you go into a dungeon, this is like a checklist of how you would make sure you're resolving and staying in some kind of initiative order. It looks like. I haven't read through this section thoroughly. I'm just glancing through it now. It explains what kind of actions you can do. Searching, resting. You can spend a turn outside of combat resting, and you regain your hit points, your hit protection. You need to have a light source and a safe location are required to rest. Present or oncoming danger makes rest impossible. You can't just bar yourself into a room and have orcs pounding at the door and try to rest. I guess is what it's saying, or whatever. This game does have fantasy creatures in it. You just can't be any fantasy creatures. Resting is not restore fatigue. As it's impossible to safely make camp in a dungeon. So specifically saying, hey, if you have fatigue and you're in a dungeon, you ain't getting rid of fatigue. Has some rules for panic and how you save against those. Has some dungeon elements, light, doors, traps. I assume light is pretty important in this game. Most games where you track your inventory and stuff like that, you're likely not going to have a light spell. Spells aren't super common, so you probably need to carry your torches. Different path types, roads, trails, wilderness. There's odds of getting lost. Wow. I'll have to give this a real good read through later. Terrain difficulty, safe area for rest, wild animals, flooding, broken equipment, falling rocks, unsafe shelters. Okay, so this explains different kinds of terrain: easy, tough, perilous terrain, and what kind of actual physical things you would run into. You have to put more watches on perilous terrain. Nice weather chart. Wilderness elements. And here we go. Torches and other radial sources of light illuminate 40 feet ahead of the party, but beyond that only provide a dim outline of objects. Characters without light source may suffer from panic until their situation is remedied. Wow, if you're in the middle of the night, you could go into a panic. Different wilderness encounters, exhaustion, discovering things. Downtime activities, that's always great to have in there. And it's in the base book, you know. D&D didn't have good downtime activities till Xanathar's Guide came out. But downtime actions. Training. You can improve your skills with an item or ability with clear narrative or mechanical results. Wow, you can get better. You can just say, hey, I'm in my downtime, I'm training, and these are some guidelines for how that makes you better. So that's good. So there may not be leveling per se, but you can train and get better. Setting evolved. Okay, this is going to go into explaining the world that they have as your default world. Oh, it's only 2 pages. So nice and succinct, and I'm sure it is to the point. The roots are just like underground caves and stuff like that. Kind of like the roots are probably like a shallow underdark type thing. The woods. Okay. I mean, I'm pretty impressed with the book so far. Uh, as lightweight RPGs go, it's definitely got a lot more in it than the first edition. The artwork is great. The backgrounds are, like I said, I love the names and I love the imagery. And this is a nice low fantasy setting that is a great option, it seems, to bring to the table. Um, I just got the Knave book from Kickstarter, and when I went through that, I was pretty impressed. It's much smaller than this is going to be, even, I think, and that's this grew much more since first edition, but it all looks good. It's still not like super loaded. It looks good, and their character sheet is awesome. You know, it's not some. It doesn't look like it belongs in a boardroom or in your TPS reports. You know what I mean? Has some good little artwork on it. So if you join me for my uh, well, it's 3 times less brief than I would have liked it to be, but just a run through first impressions and glance at Cairn 2E. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next video, I guess, because we're going to be talking about the Warden's Guide too. I also have I found an online map creator that's free, and I want to talk about that. So I mean, the ideas are building up at this point. So if you enjoyed my video, thanks for sticking around. Please engage. I love feedback. I try to answer anybody who ever posts a comment. Thanks for stopping by.